Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. We've got people signed up to this event from all over the world. I'm absolutely thrilled to be back here for our AIKora Fest, our AI and West African Music Festival event number 2. Tonight, we have got some absolute superstars of AI lined up for you, and I'm massively proud and massively grateful to introduce you to our 2 speakers for tonight. Tonight's event is focusing on capital markets and asset management. So for those of you in tech, those of you in investment banking, those of you in any form of wholesale markets, private banking, wealth management, we have an absolute treat in store for you tonight. So I'm going to start by introducing our speakers and, of course, our resident musician, Jali Kebasuso. So our first speaker tonight is Philip Treleaven. Anyone who knows anything about algorithmic trading has heard of Philip. Philip, I don't know how many technology children Philip has, but you always say Philip is the father of algorithmic trading. He's the father of fraud detection systems in surveillance in trading. And he also came up with the word RegTech and has popularized its use. He's an absolute giant in the field, academic professor at UCL, but with a lot of industry connections and collaborations. Philip, when he's not presenting at West African music festivals, can be generally found advising governments, regulators, and heads of investment bank. So we're very, very lucky to have him here with us today. Philip's going to be doing our first talk of the evening. And then, as if that wasn't excitement enough, we've got amazing Clara Durodie. Now, Clara is a best-selling author of the book Decoding AI in Financial Services. She's also an expert in applied artificial intelligence, particularly in asset management and in capital markets. Globally recognized thought leader in the field of applied AI, and she works with boards, senior management, academia, and AI startups. So Clara's skills and talents cover the entire gamut from startup to investment bank. She's a fantastic best-selling author, also a very, very kind lady, and we're massively privileged and pleased to have her with us today. So hi, Clara. Lastly, you've all met Jali Kebasuso already, anyone who was here last week. Jali is our West African musician of the evening and host for the entire festival, our Gambian griot and kora master. And I'll be talking to Jali after we get on with the talks. So at that point, I'm going to hand over to you, Philip, to take us through how you see artificial intelligence is shaping the future of investment banking and asset management. Thank you.
Good. Anyway, thank you very much for the invitation. Can I check you can see the screen? Hello.
Well, I certainly can, and I'm hoping our audience can as well. But let's assume they can as well, and I'll check with my sister.
No, don't worry. If at least one person can see it, it's probably fine. Okay. Just to
Sorry, I think did we just lose sound from Philip?
No, I'm just trying to get to the next slide, and it wasn't responding. Right. It is now. Right. If you went back to 2019, we were probably on a 5-year journey, of data-driven technology. What COVID's done is turned it into a sort of 5-month journey, and particularly it's not just financial services, it's law, real estate, etc. And the key thing is we've got a sort of what I often call a perfect storm of technologies. We've got AI and machine learning, chatbots, internets of things. Perhaps one of the biggest things is the amount of data that's coming available. There's some fantastic algorithms for natural language processing and behavioral analytics, and then you've got technologies like blockchain. Now, this there's some amazing opportunities at the moment, particularly for using AI to identify, short-term investment opportunities, because the markets often yo all over the place. The next is huge volumes of financial and alternative data. For example, one of my friends in New York in a big investment fund has persuaded Visa and MasterCard and the other to actually stream him anonymous real-time transactions, and he uses this for investment, and obviously he can see what's happening right across all the different markets. There are lots of interesting, very powerful self-programming machine learning algorithms. They seem to come along, every month now. We've had a lot of success with what's called transfer learning. There's another technology that's very good for natural language processing called long short-term memory. And in the last week or so, there's a new generation of generative pre-trained transformer models that give, it's a form of transfer learning which is giving amazing results in natural language processing. Then there's obviously more and more academic research, from the leading centers. Just to tell you a little bit about my history, about 25 years ago, we developed a lot of the early financial fraud detection technology, card fraud, insurance fraud, etc. And this was kicked off by the stock exchange coming along and asking us if we could build them an insider dealing detection system. And this is one of the first uses of AI in Europe, at least, and worked extremely well. On the sort of funny side, one of the important people in financial services said to me a few years ago, "Oh, I remember that time. Nobody would do any trading unless they had insider dealing. So you didn't need AI to do automatic detection. You could have just chosen a few people at random. Anyway, low-hanging fruit." Then about 16 years ago, we worked with Deutsche Bank and built one of the first, or the first, algorithmic trading platform in Europe for fixed income. And then we built algorithmic trading platforms, for lots of the different asset classes with the leading investment banks. So worked with almost all of them on Forex, European equities, alternative markets, etc. What we're doing now is we're doing a lot of work. We've moved out of high frequency trading, and we do a lot of work in asset management, but we also do a great deal of work in automated regulation with the FCA and PRA and the other regulators. And one of the interesting developments, which is a little bit outside of the talk, is there's a lot of interest in offshore financial centers in actually creating digital financial marketplaces, linking together government, financial services and regulation. And there's also a lot of discussion at the moment to actually pursue an open finance initiative in the UK. So where our great strength is that we've got a large number, we've got resource. We've got over 300 PhD students, some of the best in Europe, a lot of them working, in financial applications and that. We've also got a number of part-time PhD students. We've got 600 master's students, and interestingly, most of them are doing sort of machine learning related studies, and there's an increasing number of professionals actually taking a year out to come to do our master's courses. It's a great resource, and we actually, most of them actually do their research projects, with outside companies, and hedge funds, asset managers, and the investment banks. So the main data science technologies, I don't propose to go through them. You can break them down into data technologies, algorithm technologies, analytics technologies, and lastly, infrastructure technologies. One of the most interesting, the second from the bottom, is federated learning. Because most of the data sets are actually siloed and distributed, federated learning is a sort of big wave going through the machine learning community, where you can actually train your algorithms on these distributed data sets while preserving privacy. So this is a pretty incredible technology and having a big impact in AI. This is a little sort of technology stack. If you've got blockchain, big data, data models, digital object identifiers, federated learning, and we're also working on things like executable legal contracts, which you need for automation. So this is just a sort of quick tour through the different data technologies that are coming together. So artificial intelligence, the subject of the talk. Normally, we talk about AI, but we should be talking about algorithms. There are three areas: computational statistics, where you've got things like resampling methods, Monte Carlo, etc. Artificial intelligence, where there is in fact three areas: knowledge-based systems that have been around for probably 20 years, and these are the things that sort of drive call centers. Evolutionary algorithms, which are good at optimization, and then the one that gets all the publicity, machine learning, because they've got the ability to be self-programming. But there's also some very interesting algorithms in the complex systems area, and particularly agent-based modeling. If you're trying to do economic modeling, is a very good technique. So just some time ago, I was asked by the Bank of England to do a presentation to the heads of regulation from the European central banks. And one of the things they asked me to do was just do a very simple introduction to AI. I've cut this down because I guess most of you will be bored stiff by this. But firstly, knowledge-based systems, as I said, have been around for a long time. And the great benefit of knowledge-based systems, apart from it's a very simple technology, is they can actually explain their reasoning. So these are the systems that underlie when you ring a call center for a mortgage or a loan. These actually drive the call center staff's questions. More interestingly, classic neural networks. These are interesting because they underlie a lot of the deep learning techniques, and for probably the one person on the call who doesn't know what they are, you've got a set of they've got layers of these artificial neurons, and what you do is when you train them, each of the interconnections or the connections have an associated weight. And when a neural network learns, it's these weights, if you think of them like little taps that are adjusted, which actually trains the neural network to do a particular task. So the first time you put through a training example, you get absolutely rubbish out of it. You feed that back in and adjust all the weights associated with these arcs. And then you keep doing this until hopefully the system has been trained for a particular application. Interestingly, we tried to use neural networks about 30 years ago when they first came out for forecasting the dollar Deutschmark, and it was a total disaster. And we often ask ourselves, why was this? And now neural networks are so important. The reason is there's just been the amount of data around to train systems now has just gone up probably 10,000 fold. The computers have become a lot more powerful, and then lastly, you've not got these sort of simplistic neural network systems, but very sophisticated deep learning systems. If just as an illustration of how this works, you take in, for example, this is a toy example, obviously, the daily closing prices. You put a window across these and say, when you see an input like this, the correct answer is the target. And you move that window across the data and keep feeding that into the neural network. And if you're successful, then you can input a particular set of values, and it will hopefully identify the likely target. So moving on, AI in the capital markets. Now, as I said, we developed a number, or worked on a number of the early automating systems about 16 to 18 years ago. And when we start, and what I'm showing you here is the sort of classic algorithmic trading model, where you have the alpha model, which is looking for the best return, the risk model that's giving you a measurement of the risk that excuse me, I'll have another drink of water. For the investment, and then the transaction costs for all the different possible permutations that you might trade. And we would typically start off just with trading data and use this to generate a portfolio which from the trading signals that you want to buy and sell. You then have a smart order execution model. It executes. What's happened over the years is the data is escalated. Economic data that we input to the system to get it more precise. Then we use company data. Then for a time there was a lot of social media data. Some people tried to use Twitter, which is a total disaster. There's no history in there. Interestingly, some of the other systems do have some useful input. Now, for example, you can look at it for all sorts of things, like you can look at public sentiment. We even use it for crazy systems like fashion forecasting to identify companies that are going to be big in fashion. And lastly, alternative data. And this is all sorts of things. It could be satellites looking at crop yield images, in North America. We even had systems that counted the cars in supermarket car parks, etc. It could be the load factors on airlines. But the interesting thing to point out is, because you are having to make these decisions in particularly short times, like a few milliseconds, you couldn't use any real sophisticated AI. So often you'd be using simple rule-based systems. Anyway, things have moved on. Now you've got these really incredible AI systems, and the sort of future self-programming trading systems that we're working on is, you've got a series of different stages using AI, all of them working together in a pipeline. So if you start off, you're doing asset optimization, dimensionality reduction, and for example, if you are interested in energy, you'll be looking to see, do I go for wind farms? Do I go for Russian gas or something like that? Next, what you try and do is, having decided that you're going to go for oil, you have to decide which are the variables that you're going to use for price prediction and the weight to associate with each of those variables. Then, having decided that, you then select the best variables for this given time and giving them a weight. So, you might say historic prices are 8%. Terrorism might be not on your radar, and then somebody blows up some refinery, and all of a sudden, terrorism is a variable with a high weight. And then, having optimized your input variables, you then do model optimization, selecting the best model for this particular market at this particular time for this particular asset class. Then you've got models that are optimized for portfolio optimization, and down into the trade execution, and then you're going to execute. So you've got some sort of smart order routing system, and then finally you're feeding back the post-trade optimizations or returns, risk, etc., back to these models. So the interesting thing is you're no longer using just a simple model, like neural networks, for example. You've got a whole family of algorithms that could be using computational statistics, a mixture of machine learning algorithms, and possibly even complex systems. And these self-program, even on a minute-by-minute basis to take into account the data that's coming in real time, particular impact on the market, etc. On the downside is these things are so sophisticated. We're now doing a huge amount of work on algorithm interpretability to try and get these things to actually explain why they're making certain decisions, because clearly the things could even go rogue and, cost you a fortune. Finishing off, we've got some wonderful technologies. People are trying to automate digital marketplaces. There's a huge volume of financial data and regulatory data around. We're automating regulations, and lots of the governments, are trying to, automate their own financial infrastructures to, get for competitive advantage. So great opportunities. Particularly for asset management at the moment, given a lot of the volatility that's around, particularly for family offices and professional investors. So that is basically a quick run through of the different AI technologies. There is a paper, that Janet has. If you Google algorithms in the future capital markets, it's online. Janet can also send you a copy, or I can send you a copy if interesting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Philip. That was absolutely fascinating. I just wish I could hear it all again, but the good news is we're recording it, so I will hear it all again.
Yeah, so I hope it wasn't too garbled. I felt I was, rushing through it. There was you got something out of it, did you?
I'm getting fantastic feedback on LinkedIn and WhatsApp from people as well. That was really, really clear and really, really interesting. I know it's hard when you're talking to like a blank audience and you can't see them, but no, that was really brilliant. Thank you, and very, very thought provoking. And I'm sure we're going to have loads of questions from our audience. So if anyone does have any questions for Philip, pop them in the comments box on YouTube, and we'll see if we can get them across here to Skype to ask Philip after Clara's presentation. So thanks very much indeed, Philip. And next, I'd like to introduce. So now we know a little bit or a lot about the type of algorithms that are really shaping the future of investment banking and having an impact as we speak and evolving even this week. We're now going to go across to Clara, and Clara is going to give us a board perspective, some board perspectives on how do we take these incredible technologies and how do we turn them into positive benefit for our shareholders, for our society at large, and really some great tips for us. So Clara, if I may hand over to you now, please. Thank you. And you may be still on mute, Clara. Are you on mute? You are on mute, Clara. Good.
Hello.
Hello.
So, hello everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you tonight. I'm very pleased to share a few of my thoughts, part of the research we have conducted over the years, but also insights which I have identified, having finished writing a book on what artificial intelligence means to financial services. So what I would like to do tonight is to share a few high-level, board-level reflections of how this technology is impacting, not just at the product level, but at the business structure level. All these algorithms, everything what we can build, they're put in products which companies sell, and very importantly is to try to see how the board, how the leadership, how the C-suite see this technology and understand the digital transformation and the speed at which it happens. So what I would like to do is to tell you a little bit about myself, first of all, so you understand my story. And you can see here on the screen, it's this is a real road somewhere in the Alps. This is the shape of my career. It's literally, I did a U-turn in 2014. I left financial services where I was trained as a portfolio manager, where I had spent time in executive management roles. I have economics and finance degrees. Back in the day when I was young, as a teenager, I've always loved mathematics. It's something which I wanted to go and get a degree in. But I was convinced to study economics simply because I couldn't answer the question, yes, do you want to be a maths professor when you complete your degree? So the answer was no, and the other option I had was to go and read economics. So this was me. Before I joined financial services, I had worked in technology, early forms of barcoding technology and personal credit rating technology. I did early work in Europe with Experian back in the day before 2000. So I've always been close to technology, and unsurprisingly, in 2011, which you see is the first bullet on that road, I was put in charge in my previous role to run a highly complex post-acquisition integration, primarily leading technology change. And that was when, 6 months into it, I went to my board and I said two things. I said, we're just not doing investing in the right technology, and I think we should look very closely in options to invest in intelligent automation. So just remember, 2011, no one was talking about intelligent automation in financial services except for algorithmic trading or fraud detection. And then the other thing I told them, I said, I think we're going to a world where we will have self-programming, self-tuning, or autonomous organizations, companies which will run themselves, and we need to be prepared for that. As you can imagine, at that point, I was turned down completely. I completed my work in 2014. I resigned. I did this U-turn, sharp U-turn. I spent 1 year studying academic work, primarily at the intersection of neuroscience, wealth management, and artificial intelligence. And I was looking at how episodic memory informs how we save and how we invest. I think 2000 point of a new institutions. I work primarily at the board level. And all this experience, all the knowledge I have accumulated since 2014, I'd like to share it with you tonight in 3 main bullet points to take away for you. So I'm going to talk about the revolution we are registering in financial services. Then I'll talk about the autonomous enterprise, and then about the ethics. As Philip mentioned earlier in the previous presentation, we are in the midst of a phenomenal revolution. And it's such a big revolution that even the co-founder of Google back in 2015 went on record to say that he was taken by surprise. So now, if the co-founder of Google is taken by surprise at how this technology is moving, imagine for a moment how board directors and C-level executives in financial services think. They are more than taken by surprise. The work I do is primarily focusing in identifying the opportunities and areas, the gaps the C-level, board-level executives need to cover in order to be prepared and stay up to date to what's happening. Because it's not just, they can't resign and bring somebody else in because there's not that talent there. Plus, these people are people who have accumulated tremendous amount of experience, highly relevant going forward. It's just the skill gap which needs to be filled in. So the revolution we are experiencing in financial services is all about how AI is transforming the way we do business. AI, as far as the C-level or board-level executives, AI, it is a strategic business tool. So what does it do for us? In my view, I think it does two main things. Deliver a level of personalization which we haven't registered in our industry ever before. I believe that we are, for the first time in our history as an industry, where we can actually offer highly personalized services to our clients. And this is a huge bonus and huge advantage our clients can have. And I have in mind primarily the retail space, but also the wholesale space can benefit tremendously. The second benefit is in the profitability, which we can look to increase through the right distribution, the right use of this technology. So these are the two main areas where AI brings value to our industry. Personalization, I call it radical personalization. That's how far we can go. And I was really pleased to see that Capgemini this year in their annual wealth management report identified as hyper personalization. And they are right. So personalization. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the future of how the organizational future of how the industry, our industry, is very likely to look like. I would say not in the distant future. Back in the day, in 2011, I started thinking about this future as the autonomous enterprise future. It was earlier this year when I came across the BCG Henderson Institute paper where they talk about the self-tuning organization. And that is an important component. In my mind, I think it's the same. My autonomous enterprise, it is actually a self-tuning organization which self-programs itself, self-programs to achieve and optimize the outcome. But in order to prepare for this type of engagement, we are looking at a different style of leadership. It is leading an ecosystem. It's a style of leadership where unpredictability is part of the game. It's not what we used to have until now, where we set out a business objective and then that's where the board says we're going to go and do this, and then the executive comes back to the board on a regular basis to report on the execution. That, I think, it's old days. We're not going to see that structure anymore. And in fact, in progressive organizations, I have already seen approaches to which leave space to this type of new leadership. It's also leadership which welcomes resilience at a very high level, which we haven't seen before. In wealth management, I would say that the autonomous enterprise is aiming to achieve three main things: adapting to changing customers' needs, modulating the exploration of new needs, and shaping the emergence of new needs. This is very powerful, and this is in line with what I mentioned earlier, that hyper-personalization is one of the greatest benefits of adopting AI in business setting. But what kind of company needs this type of leadership, this type of to become self-tuning organization? Any company which has a complex and dynamic environment requiring readjustments at all levels and at all times. This is very powerful, because if you think of how organizations are emerging with this data tsunami, which Philip talked to us about earlier tonight, all that data is introducing this complexity, this dynamic environment, and we need systems in place to readjust to whatever is ahead of us. We need resilience and be comfortable with the unpredictability of our work. But at the moment, what are business leaders doing in financial services? There are a lot of reports around, and also corroborated with my own work. I can say that about 30% of the leaders in financial services integrate AI in their core strategic business. 45% invest 3 times more than the late adopters in AI. And 7% of leaders record more revenues from AI initiatives than later. That the pioneers, the forward thinkers, the visionaries will be those who actually are strengthening their market positioning quite quickly. I've brought for you tonight 2 companies I've come across in my research, and also I had a chance to get to know them better. And these are companies which are providing this type of self-programming services, which I believe in the future they will be integrated in the very fabric of each organizations in our sector. One is Einstein. It takes a very interesting approach to managing risk in portfolios on an ongoing basis. And then the other one is AIKora. It's just like a one-click execution, completely looking to transform how the execution is done in capital markets. So, but going forward, everybody needs to gain the basic AI skills. And I keep saying that leaders need to consider training everyone from the receptionist all the way to the board level in what AI is and what it means. Not to build algorithms, not to do the heavy lifting, but actually to understand the difference between to understand the difference in how these algorithms are used, what purpose they serve. Earlier in the talk, Philip mentioned federated learning, something which I've done research in, I've worked in. Intel is doing some fabulous work in the space, and we deal with some very important problems like privacy by using this type of approach. So it's important for everyone in the organization to understand the basic use of how this technology is used and deployed. Exactly as we all need to learn how to drive a car, and we go and take this driving test, but we don't need to learn how to build a car in order to drive a car. So it's the same approach. We need to learn the basics in order to be able to be competent in the near future in our work. Of boards in financial services of all the companies listed on the London Stock Exchange at the end. So we did this research at the end of 2018. We identified that 94% of the bank's leadership, they have no experience related to technology. So it's very hard, as you can see, to enable change if you don't. And then we've. I'd like to share with you a few more stats which have come from looking at how technology has been deployed and used for business purposes in the industry. And I've got three numbers for you tonight. So 93% of the CEOs interviewed by IDC are disappointed in the digital transformation projects. So that's 93. It's a huge number. According to McKinsey, 75% of the digital transformation projects go to waste. So we're talking billions gone down the drain where nothing happens. There's no benefit to the organization. And 90% of pure AI projects actually don't deliver. They cannot be scaled. And then again, we did some research and we looked as to why these numbers are taking place. Why are they happening? What's going on there? What's wrong? So our first-hand experience working with clients, but also discussing with other consultancies, our conclusion is that there is no AI strategy which follows the business strategy. So this is a very important sequence here. So we buy technology in order to support the business strategy going forward. What is the business objective we have in 5 years or 10 years? We need to start from there. And then we bring in the technology to help us deliver on this objectives. And of course, one might say, but hang on, the technology is moving so quickly. How can we set out business objectives to achieve, but we don't know what the technology is doing in the meantime? So, well, one needs to spend a little bit of time in the AI labs and see what experts are working on and where is this going. So again, the core takeaway is business strategy must lead the digital transformations. I've seen cases with some of our clients where they buy pieces of tech just to report to the board that they've invested in this AI project or the other AI project. But actually, at the end of the day, they build this transformation as a piecemeal approach as opposed to a joined up approach. And that's where the money goes to waste. When you can't join up this piecemeal approach, you can't deliver on the business strategy. So the next point and the final point of my talk tonight is a conversation around the importance of delivering. The importance of digital transformation and adoption of AI within ethical frameworks is absolutely essential. I've come to appreciate that when we lead with ethics, we can't really get it wrong. Yeah, we may be a bit slower, but we can't really get it wrong. And whilst we can be slower as opposed to cutting corners or, leaving first and dealing. What I've seen so far in real life is that those people actually end up spending more time and more money in fixing things which could have been done and implemented correctly from the start. And there are two principles on adoption, on the adoption of AI to keep in mind. One is the governance of this technology in the context of corporate governance. Again, the ethics is the foundation of how we approach the adoption of this technology, how we approach the design of this technology. It's so important that I cannot stress enough, and unfortunately I can't share with you specific numbers about how much money some organizations had to spend in order to correct the ethics mishaps. How do we remember how we need to approach the adoption of AI? I've tried to come to find ways to define this, and I think I found one, and that's one sentence. So exactly as we are responsible and we influence in the same way we input in the way we design and adopt and maintain the systems. We bring in the same selves in the way we shape this technology. And we need to be aware of that. I am a parent, and I've come to see so many times that my weaknesses would be copied by my son. And that is the mirror to my own character. And sometimes I see that I need to change things, and sometimes could be late because those weaknesses have already been ingrained in my behavior. But we have to, coming back to the adoption and design of this technology, we have to be aware and mindful that we are responsible for everything we put out there, in the shape of, in which we build the teams, in which we deliver what is expected of us. It's not just designing a product. It's not just designing an algorithms to do this and the other one. We are actually responsible for how we design it. One of the fathers of deep learning went on record about 18 months ago saying, I'm a computer scientist, I'm not a social scientist. I can't be responsible for how my inventions are used and impact the civil society or impact people. How the privacy is eroded, how trust is eroded. It's true. And that's why it's so important to bring into the conversation people from all disciplines, neuroscience, computer science, mathematics, philosophy, theology. Bring them in, have a conversation, and understand that what we're building here is a reflection of how we are, and is the shape of the future where we want to be. But I'm going to close my presentation tonight, and for your amusement, I brought here tonight this photo. It's a photo of the panel where I said, when someone from the audience asked, who is responsible for this technology? That was in 2017. So I had a global bank next to me and 2 AI companies. And I simply, none of them were able to just come up with a core key answer to that very pertinent question. I said it, algorithms have parents, and that stayed within the fintech community in a space at a speed in which I did not expect. So much so that we created a t-shirt, and we sold out very quickly. Funnily enough, the computer science community, the data scientists, have been very keen to buy a copy. So we will have the new version of the new design of 2020, and it will be available at the website, which I mentioned earlier. And finally, I'd like to summarize what I shared with you tonight is about the revolution we're living in financial services, the autonomous enterprise we need to prepare for and build a leadership and knowledge and skills for, and that we cannot go ahead and build something sustainable to build trust and redefine trust in this digital age if we don't build it on a strong foundation of ethics. All my findings and all my work is available in my book. And for you tonight, you can go on this website, find the book, it's under writing. And if you input AIKora 50, you will be able to get a discount only for you tonight. So with that, thank you very much for your attention, and it's been a pleasure being with you tonight.
Clara, thank you so much. Now, I'm going to ask everyone to go on mute, please, because for some reason I'm suddenly echoing. Right. That's better. Echo gone. Listen, Clara, that was absolutely brilliant. Again, I'm getting brilliant feedback in from our viewers. Particularly, one viewer wanted me to say, particularly that last section on ethics was absolutely brilliant, and enjoyed everything that you said. And of course, you know, my own personal research is academic research is in the area of accountability of artificial intelligence in financial services. And I couldn't agree with you more about algorithms have parents and we are those parents. It is our responsibility to ensure that all of the algorithms and artificial intelligence implementations in financial services deliver fair customer outcomes and are regulatory compliant and regulatorily compliant. So I'm going to also now introduce Elizabeth Shaw, Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, to you now. And Elizabeth, are you there? Do you want to turn on your camera? Say hi.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you. Hi, Elizabeth. Dr. Elizabeth Shaw is a core member of the AIKora Fest team and has been supporting us since the very outset. A lecturer and head of programs in law with particular interest in criminology. Elizabeth is now learning about AI and running some really excellent projects, including a 1,000 Black Voices project that she's running in with the support of ITV to really help bring out voices, bring out and amplify the experience of being Black in the UK. And some of her stories are amazing. I really recommend having a look at 1,000 Black Voices. So, Elizabeth, you're very kindly going to host the questions and answers for us this evening, and I know you've been doing some research. We do have two from the audience, which I'm not sure if you've seen them first, but if it's okay, I'm going to ask the first question first for the audience, from the audience, which is for Philip. And the question, Philip, our viewer says, I was interested in Philip's comments on work related to automation of regulation. I'd like to know more. Is this for regulators or for regulated firms? How could it support better customer outcomes?
At the present time, many governments see automated regulation as creating economic advantage. So most of our work has been trying to automate regulation for the regulators, okay, rather than compliance. However, we had a project, I think it's ongoing, involving Santander and Barclays and some of the other banks and the FCA, where we were using blockchain smart contracts to allow companies to actually do their own compliance and put the compliance reports in a blockchain and just pass back a token to the regulators. So, but that's a rather unusual one. Most of the work at the moment on regulation is for regulators. The exception is with regard to algorithms. We've got a lot of work with some of the big corporates who are obviously worried that their algorithms are illegal, unethical, blah, blah, blah. And therefore, there's a lot of work around interpretability and also producing synthetic data sets and such like for companies, either to do an internal audit of algorithms, which is what we provide, or hopefully at some stage to actually do it themselves.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So that's really useful for us to know here in banking. Regulators are going to be very highly advanced in the use of algorithms in their regulation, as well as the necessity for us in banks to make sure that we do fully understand and can interpret all of our algorithms. So thank you so much for that. Second question from the audience is for Clara, and it is, why do you think 93% of CEOs are disappointed in transformation projects and 90% of pure AI projects fails? Is it because expectations are set too high, or what did your research show you on this?
Well, I think so. The research showed us that there is a lack of joined up vision regarding the adoption of this technology to achieve business objectives. So we did some work for a global bank, and we identify 80% duplication of projects. For instance, there was a case where the office in this big city, the second floor was doing the same project and the same work in pilot on the third floor. So the level of duplication is phenomenal. So it's very high. And it's also a lot of territoriality happening and internal politics. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. I'm not going to show you what I'll do, and then I'll go and, look good. I used to live the corporate life. I know what it means, and the race to make a name for yourself. But what happens is that when there is no strong leadership with a strong mandate for change, with a clear vision to achieve business objectives, then everybody's just running left, right, and center, doing things, duplicating, submitting work to the board to say, we've done this is in pilot, we're not going to do this, oh, maybe we can try that, is what I call quilting. So these little projects, eventually someone will try to join them up. And as we know, when it comes to implementation, is a nightmare. So the answer is, in our research and in our work, there is a lack of joined up vision for the future of the organization. And that renders this kind of fragmented approach to selecting duplication, it's part of the joy of doing it, right? When there's no common denominator. So that's my opinion. I think that's the reason why.
Could I add something?
Please.
Most corporates have a real problem with innovation. And I remember when we built one of the first our trading said to me, we'll never be able to cut it competing with the hedge funds, because it takes me 9 months to get a server into the bank. What we do now, what we find works very well, is to encourage everybody to launch a startup. So I've done 9 startups, and if we've got some interesting technology, and I would say this to the audience, get the corporates to let you do a startup, because then you deliver them a packaged product and something that works, and they understand that. So the great thing is if all the people on the call want to innovate, do a startup. Just as an illustration, 2 of my PhD students raised 2.5 million and sold their startup for 26 million. So you can win the lottery by doing it.
Philip, if only some of the people who are employed, their employment contract would allow them to start a startup. That would be great. I know
there's a lot of interest now in entrepreneurship, and Citigroup have got some project. I think it's called DX9 or something like that. It works brilliantly, and it actually encourages the staff to come forward with ideas, and then they incubate them, and it's a great model. And as I said, if we've got some interesting technology, I just encourage the students to, find industry partners, form, a team, and just try and commercialize it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, that's really great advice from you both. Elizabeth, what other questions do you have lined up for our speakers, please?
Well, first of all, I have to say, really, thank you so much, Philip, Clara, for inducting me, because this is all very new to me. So the question I'm going to ask are very simple questions for you, would really give me some insights. I suppose, Philip, the first question is because you mentioned about algorithm interpretability, and you did say the system can go rogue. My ears pricked up. I thought, I'm going to ask that question. Everyone sort of considers and thinks about this in some form. So could you really let us know what the likelihood is of that, and how can we make sure that that doesn't happen?
There's a, I think it's a fairly safe bet that most algorithms in most corporations may be illegal, unethical, biased, and all of that. So what we're looking into, the academic area is called algorithm interpretability. But what we're looking into is, doing internal algorithm audit, basically quietly going in, not just looking at whether the algorithms are working correctly, but just also doing the whole, the whole 9 yards? Is that the right term? Looking at how the staff are trained, in ethics so that they understand or appreciate what they're doing. And then what to happen, if you've got an algorithm that is unethical, it was clearly trained by people, who probably also need, what do you do to the staff to address that? It's a really hot topic at the moment, and companies are clearly very worried about it, and it's increasingly a lot more legislation coming. So we've been working with a number of organisations to see if the UK should set up a national algorithm certification service, and there's a lot of support for this.
Thank you very much, Clara. Loved what you said about algorithms have parents. So I guess the question is really still around that you did talk about responsibilities, accountability. Whose role is it really to, say, for example, reskill people in critical AI skills? What do you think about that? Do you have any insight for us?
So let's start a conversation in practical terms. If we were to discuss or decide in an organization that we need to reskill people, which is basically so evident that I don't think we need anybody to spend too much time pushing this argument. But when the decision is like, we need to reskill people, so what are we going to do then? Someone needs to pay for that. Someone needs to approve the budget for that. And the budget is approved at the board level. So if we don't get the buy-in and the understanding at the board level, how big the skill gap is and how necessary it is for companies to go ahead, we can have endless conversations, which I've seen so many times with some of our clients. You have heads of innovation or, middle management, a little bit like C-suite, trying to fight for budgets to buy this. And exactly as Philip said earlier, people don't have money to buy servers and all that. So if we don't get, and this is my mission, and this is what I've been working for the past 5 years, is to educate the board level. We believe that if we start at the highest level to educate them, inform them about what's ahead of them, they're very smart people. In most cases, the clients we work with, they pick up things so quickly and they understand. So you don't need to spend like ages to explain things. But where do we start? We start at the board level. That's where the checks are signed. That's where the money are put aside and the budgets are approved.
Thank you. I guess I also have concerns about how government gets involved in all of that kind of conversation. We'll leave it there at the minute. And I'll ask one last question of Philip, and I'll ask Clara one more if you don't mind. Back to regulation automation. And Philip, what do you think is the impact on how employment law would be shaped based on this?
Can I? This isn't to avoid your question, but one thing I wanted to say to you. There's some really interesting technology on computer executable legal contracts or computer executable rules, and in the next probably maybe 2 years, you'll be able to have legal contracts, regulations and laws that are both human readable and computer readable and executable. And once you've got that, you will get clarity. Just a short story. I gave a talk to the law faculty at UCL, which is probably the best in the country. And I said to them about law tech, we will be able to give you contracts that remove ambiguity. And they all shouted out, that's how we make our money. And so I said, I'll put a dial on the side so you can dial in the ambiguity. But the serious answer is we're close to having human readable, computer executable contracts, which will really contribute to this. And if you're looking for an area to get into for your personal self, try that one.
Thank you. I think that's an excellent tip. Thank you, Philip. Last question, Clara. Just to wrap up, I think, would you be able to share any insight into specific sector trends when it comes to, how leaders are engaging with tech?
So I will stay within financial services, and my work has taken me to different sectors within financial services. And I think it's absolutely clear that in the investment banking space, we've seen tremendous progress and understanding, a higher understanding than we have seen in, say, wealth management, in pure wealth management sector. I think they've been comfortably in their space and not making much changes because of the business model, and that's the space I used to work in, and I can see why the adoption and innovation is very, very slow. However, COVID came along, and that shattered all the models and expectations and put decision makers and board levels in a rather uncomfortable place to redefine how they do work. Wealth management is widely known for a space where you just have to go in the office every day, 7:30 before the markets open. That was my life for a long time. And it's part of the culture. And COVID came along, the lockdown came, and that shattered all that culture and expectations. So I see there's a big spectrum here from large organizations, global, who've been like really Goldman Sachs ahead of the game, all the way down to smaller banks, which, older banks, they've already started to disappear. And I keep saying, I know, sounds like a broken record, I still believe that the future of all these organizations stays in the hands of their leaders. If the leaders don't educate themselves, then they have no idea what's ahead of them. So it's, and that actually, if the board is not educating itself into this digital leadership era, then they're not satisfying the fiduciary duties they have towards the companies they work for. So, I think we'll see dramatic changes in how the market will look like, the players, we'll see companies emerging. We'll see quite a lot of companies disappearing purely because they're not prepared to keep up the pace. And that's all to do with their leaders.
Thank you very much. You have both been amazing speakers tonight. I have learnt a lot, and I'm sure our audience have also learnt masses. Do remember to go and check out the t-shirts, and make a purchase on that. I'm going to hand over back to, Janet right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Beautifully hosted. And Philip and Clara, I can't thank you enough. I'm getting great feedback again on your audience discussion, on the questions and answers, as well as on your talks. So that's been really enlightening and hugely informative and so authoritative in your knowledge and where we are today. The unpredictability really struck a chord with me, Clara, because who would have thought we would be here running an AI and West African Music Festival to support West African musicians whose income has been destroyed by a virus lockdown. You know, it definitely is a time for leadership in unpredictable times. And you two are two really, truly great leaders. And I'm very, very grateful to you both for your time today. So thank you both. I'm going to come over to our other superstar of the evening, which is our very own lovely Jelly Kedasuso. Good evening, Jelly. How are you today?
Good evening. I'm fine, thank you. How are you all?
I'm fantastic, thank you. This is like the best thing in the world for me. I love listening to great leaders talk about artificial intelligence and then follow it with West African music. It's like all my Christmases come at once, all my birthdays at once. So listen, I'm super happy. Thank you. Jelly, before we come into your live concert, I know the audience are really looking forward to hearing you. I thought I'd ask you this evening, what is that instrument you're playing and why is it special?
This instrument is called the Kora, Kora, and it's from the Gambia, West Africa. This instrument is 21 strings. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how, because the instrument I have right now in my hands is kind of the modern adoption, but this is the more like this is the grandfather. So
beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's the traditional Kora. So it's all by pushing up and down, you know. These are the tuning pegs. They're cowhides that are plaited as rings. Those are so the rings are the tuning pegs. Before this adoption, there used to be an older adoption, which is the original, which used to be the strings used to be the veins of a cow, the animal, or the skin. So, but you can only play that in a very low mood because you cannot push the skin that high. So the first adaptation is with fishing lines. So
wow.
they move from the traditional thing, but my generation, we found fishing lines, and I'm sure you know. So we found the fishing lines, and from the fishing lines, we were still playing with this. But then when we make a move to Europe, it becomes another different thing, which then there is another adaptation that happens, which it moves from there to this. So it moved to the next one, which is just simple neck, which is adapted to guitar keys. So electrification, we start to electrify and to make things compact and a little bit more easier for us, because before we have so much trouble trying to handle this instrument first, because trying to tune this over here, because the weather is very temperamental, and we all know that. We
do. We do. That's a lot of strings to tune. I never thought about it. I remember playing my guitar.
So imagine trying to play and tuning on different keys on them, constantly trying to move them, and there is nothing to hold them. So sometimes disaster happen, because sometimes when it's very cold, you try to move it up, it moves down, it hits maybe 2-3 strings, they all go down, and you have just an hour to play. So it becomes very move to the other one, but then after we to the next adaptation at the moment.
Well,
this
well,
is so. This one is with half semitone levers, so it gives me the flexibility and for me to be able to move from key to key without having to tune, retune, go down, go up. So it will take you, at least however quick you are, it will take some of your performance time.
Well, thank you. And I hope you're all tuned and ready for us now.
I hope so.
I hope so too. Thank you for that history of the Kora, Jelly. So now for those of us to so we can plan the rest of our evening, Jelly's going to play about a 15-minute concert. So get yourself a glass of wine before you're in for a huge treat, and if you have, you know you're in for a huge treat. So I'll hand over to you, Jelly Cow.
Bless. Yes, I. That's one of my things that are coming in the near future. So look out and watch this space, because there is music coming out.
Thank you, Jelly. We shall.
Say. Yes, AIKora. Yes, sir.
It's a beautiful Cora. I'll clap on behalf. I see Elizabeth there clapping. I'll clap on behalf of the whole audience. I guess I'd ask everyone out there on watching on YouTube to give a big round of applause for Jerry. Thank you so much indeed. Jerry, that was fabulous. Thank you. That was fabulous.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Kumuyati bolina sanye adamim. Twenty bolina sanye adamim fa. Yati bolina sayala mumena yina uye nya litula baba. Welcome to the AIKora session. Coming to you live. Yeah, that. Ati balila sayala mumekena. Liti yafanati balila sayala mumekena.
Sally, that was absolutely amazing. They're all clapping here on mute. Sally, that was absolutely amazing. I loved that. There were times where I was like, there's no way you just have 8 fingers and 21 strings. It sounds like so many strings all playing all at once. That was really beautiful. Especially love that second track. I'm going to come back to you about that one. So listen, time for us to wrap up, to say goodbye and thank you. A few people I'd like to thank. Ali, obviously, Ben Fatoum, our amazing technical director, doing an absolutely brilliant job. Are you on the screen, Ali? That's fantastic. Thank you so much for all your help, and all the team. I want to thank Elizabeth. It was amazing tonight, Elizabeth. Thank you so much indeed. And Omar, thank you very much for your help as well. Sarah, thank you for your help. Look forward to having Sarah back next week. And then, of course, a huge thanks to our brilliant speakers. Philip has had to leave us, but Clara's still here. So if we can all do a big team clap for Clara, who is amazing. Thank you very much indeed. Everyone's clapping there. So thank you so much, Clara. I'm sure people are going to be queuing up for that book, and certainly for those T-shirts. So we've definitely got more chat to come with you and I. It's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to work with you on this project. Thank you very, very much indeed. I also would like to thank you, Victor Cruz at FinTech Talents, who started helping us with our promotions and marketing, and of course FinTech Talents Festival, such an extraordinary and amazing festival in and of itself. So Thank you so much to Victor. Thank you to Jay Poulter for our help on our social media strategy as well. Really, really appreciate all of your help and support. And to really every single one of you who has contributed, who's come along this evening, who has commented and liked on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. So you're all amazing. Have I forgotten anyone? Oh, Ryan. Ali's nephew has been helping tonight, so thank you as well, Ryan. That's very kind of you. Ryan's a super talented MBA grad and or student, and available for an internship in any investment bank if anybody was interested. He's absolutely amazing, so come and let us know. Please do, if you haven't had the opportunity to make a donation, please do donate. Someone has just pointed out to me we've got a spelling error in our crowdfunding, but I'm sure you can work it out. It's AIKora Festival on crowdfunding if you hadn't had the chance. But thank you so much for the incredibly generous donations we've had in so far tonight. I think that's it from us. Ali, Elizabeth, Jali, of course, incredible, amazing concert. Thank you so much. The heart and soul of this venture.
Everybody, how we're running, it's been beautiful, and let's keep support.
That's right. We've got another great event next week. Next week is on AI in industry with amazing Professor Hani Hagras and Dr. Gilbert Owusu from BT. And then the week after, we have got Ben Gertzel coming to talk to us about AGI, following which we've actually got one of Philip's students, Adriano Suarez Koshiyama, talking to us more about AI ethics. So a fabulous series of events still lined up. Please keep coming. Please keep liking. Please keep sharing. We love you all very much indeed. You've all been amazing. Thank you so much, audience. Thank you so much, team. Have I forgotten anyone, Ali? I haven't forgotten anyone, have I?
I think we're good.
I think we're good. You think we're good?
Flip, everyone. So,
Philip, everyone, yeah.
Yeah.
We can't hear you, Ali. Are you on mute? Can't hear you.
You mute.
Ali, our technician, making everyone else sound brilliant except himself. Can't hear you, Ali. You're typing us a message. Big shout out to Murad. Absolutely. Thank you. I knew I was forgetting someone. Murad Ural for our incredible designs that were looking absolutely beautiful tonight on YouTube. Incredible designer. Huge shout out. Thank you so much, Murad. Thank you, Ali, for reminding me. All right. Good night. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Have a brilliant week. And we look forward to seeing you again next Thursday. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.